Good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital, nightly strategy podcast for November 28th, 2022. We'll start with the sniper trade of the day. Today it's in U.S. Steel. As always, we're on 3-minute charts. So yesterday closed way up there and gapped all the way down to here. It sold off immediately, moved to this high, and then closed back here. So we have not much difference between the open and the close. You have a close here and an open there. So very little travel time, but it long tails. So there's the OR3 to the top, and here's the OR3 to the bottom. So it opens the second bar here, it sells off, cruises way back up top. We get our entry. It closes here, and so we're going to put our standard risk box on this thing and exit almost immediately thereafter. So we got the this is our standard risk box here. It did not follow through like it was supposed to. Instead, it just rolled over and started failing. And at about the halfway point, I just cut it for minus 0.5. Enough of that mess. I'm really looking to see it now fail below here for a move in that direction. But if it reverses, then I will just as happily take it that way. So you can think of this middle area in here as the yellow zone. That price hasn't moved out of the OR3, and I'm ready to take it in either direction. And I've taken a half an hour loss so far. Check or hold. It immediately reverses after I exit. So I just retake the same entry, only this time it works in my favor. This one, let's see, we'll take our stop, which is down here. By this time, I'm ready to move to about here. And I'm ready to lock in that wedge. No lose plus dinner for two. And what I really have is a little bit of wiggle room. So there's the close in this bar. And I have about that much slack for it to decide what it wants to do. But I've locked in this piece right here. Okay. It's holding. Now by this time in the trade, with my stop here, I notice that I've got about 3 bars in a row that it did not fail. And now it actually opens and now feels like it's taken off. So I can actually now take this move and go about halfway through that stack and just draw my stop there. And now what I've got is I've now locked in an extra wedge. And that's approximately, that's about 1 hour locked in, I would say. Check or hold. So to review again, we've moved our stop to here, then probably to about here. And now I'm noticing this start to form, so I might even be willing to go here and lock in an extra piece. And you wouldn't be wrong if you did that. Let's just shrink this down a little bit so we can see what's going on. So now what I'm noticing, now that we're moving out, I see this was yesterday's closing price around in here, and that was the peak of yesterday's closing prices where the PSAR yesterday would have flipped. So I just draw that across and I say, look, by that time, I've also got about 2R in hand. So that's 1 unit of risk, 2 units of reward. So when I get better than +2, and it's taken out that previous hump of resistance, I feel I can go ahead and take that second entry. Check or hold. And now my stop had better be probably right here. And then as soon as I can, I want to try to get that above the second entry. So as soon as I can lock in a wedge on that second position, then I really do feel like I'm free and clear. So that's what I'm waiting to do. And then that one took off like a scalded ape. It ran to here, zoomed much higher, and then came screaming down. And I decided to just go ahead and take that here in order to make money on the second position and really lock in a very good trade on the first position. Check or hold? Yeah, so a Z3 excursion, Gary notes. Correct. So you can see how high that went. That's almost like the Horns of the Dragon or Z3 excursion. This was such a gift. I mean, within about 5 minutes, that second position was basically 2R in hand, and I gave back 2R because that's a full R on 2 positions. But under the circumstances, I was happy with that. Now, when this comes screaming down below that blue line that was the resistance, it does not penetrate the dragon at all. Instead, it reverses back to the upside. So now what I'm noticing is that I've got that little R10 wiggle. This little downward excursion in the recovery only served to put a little wiggle on that R10, and then it continued. So I went ahead and re-entered and put on a standard risk box. So we're back in with one position. Check or hold. And I would call that one a Kata 2. Why would I call that a Kata 2? Because it has a low, a higher low, and takes out the RT. You might call it an emerging dragon, but I look at that as a Kata 2, just a re-entry on continuation of strength. That one fails quickly. So it's a scratch. So this thing just goes nowhere in a hurry. Now, when it does that, I'm not sticking around because I've seen how quickly that thing can reverse. And this made a lower high compared to that previous price excursion. So I'm not in any mood to give it the benefit of the doubt. And in fact, when it breaks below the PSAR and moves a full risk box below, I go ahead and take the short. And now I'm looking for it to get back to like the belly of the dragon or the bottom of the RL10. I'm looking for one of those two moves. And if I'm treating that as my risk box, I've got 1, 2, basically 3R back to the intraday level of support. Now, if this thing breaks below here, I'm going to be massively short But meanwhile, this is just, for me, one position tactical trade, the tactical trade space. And all I'm trying to do is get my stop from here to below my entry so that I can lock in, as usual, this little wedge of gains. So as soon as I can get my stop to here, then that's going to be good. Check or hold. And that moves in my favor pretty quickly. Happy about that. This moves down, and now it feels like it's almost leveling out. That's kind of the move right there. And I can feel it starting to stall. So I want to make sure that I have my stop here. I could go to the spine of the dragon or the top of the dragon. Any one of those three is going to put me in the money. So you could make a decision now on which one of those you want. Which stop would you like? 1, 2, or 3? Or would you just take it right here at 4? That would be about an R gain. Turns out that all of them keep you in the trade. And now I'm looking at this, and here's my thinking. I notice this as the support level. It's finding support a little bit higher than that. And the last time it was at this price level, up it went. And I've got about 2R in hand, but it's already started to reverse, so I don't want to put a second position on yet. Now, what I'm willing to do is if it goes below that R10, then I would add a second position down here. But otherwise, I've seen this one move up and came back, and now this bar is still inside. It's get this little wedge forming up right here. So I'm going to probably just move my stop. I could go to the edge of the dragon or just take the PSAR down. So type 1, if you would establish it at that PSAR. 2, if you would put it at the peak of the dragon or top skin of the dragon. 3, if you're willing to just let the adaptive PSAR be your exit. And 2 might have gotten you out. It was pretty close. 2 might have gotten you out like right about here. The PSAR would probably have got, 3 would have gotten you out right there as well. I ended up taking this exit because the R10 bottomed out and came up and breached the dragon. And that, as it was coming through the top of the dragon, I just said that's enough. And then it immediately failed. So I got short again with 1. So meanwhile, we get about a plus 2 on this one. I think we had 1, 2, 3, plus 4 on this one, a 0 on that one. So we're at about plus 6. And we are short 1. And we've got a standard risk box here. Check or hold. That one fails quickly. That now feels like what kind of pattern? It's supposed to fail. It did not. And now I've got a low, a bit of a higher low. I have that long PSAR flip. What would we call that one? Yeah, supported spring crossing, correct. Again, with a standard risk box. Fails right away, so I'm ready to go short again. because we're so close to the bottom of the day. Let's see what we get. This one's starting to work. So there was our wrist box. So we were +6 here, and then um, this one is a scratch. That one's a scratch. By this time, when this breaks, notice how it negotiated some support and resistance here at the same level, and when that broke, that was a decisive move downward. So that's why I like getting short inside this region when the R10s collapse. Now we were already short one, so I'm not going to get short here. But if I'm not short here, then I have to get short there. Check or hold. I just want you to notice that when those statistical support measures break, that first move down is decisive. So now we're holding about 2R in hand. And we take the standard SSE exit. And that was enough for the day. There was a little more, but it was already after 2 p.m. So that was about 8R in U.S. steel with a couple quick fails right away. There was a quick fail, quick fail, quick fail, quick fail. So 4 out of those were very rapid scratches. So don't stay wrong too long. And then you got to read where the support and resistances are, so when it breaks, you can be on it. Okay. Just to show, there's another symbol that's really moving well here. PBW. I was not on this because I was monkeying around with U.S. steel, but this one has on about a 25-cent wrist box. When that breaks, whew, those are all short positions, and you got that when this thing cannot recover, it fails out of here. Those are really nice moves. There was probably 6 to 10 are available in PBW, and more's coming because that thing is just collapsing. There's no evidence of government funding going into that sector. Just wanted to share that one out. All right, let's take a look at the. Oops, this is our 30. Where are we at here? All right, here's our 30-day look, or 30-minute bar look back, I should say. So here was today's move in the S&P, and really PSAR flip and just straight down and closed weekly. And now you can see that it rejected the 5-day high and is now very near the 5-day low. And if this breaks and this breaks, then look out below. And we could be very quickly back at 375 in a blink of an eye. So this would be the other one at 386 is key. That's this gap. There's no support in here whatsoever. So if this support line breaks, there's nothing in this region to stop it from getting back to here. So if this breaks, expect a fast move down to there. That would be like the second leg down. All right. Actually, maybe the third leg. So if we treated this as leg 1 down, and then if it crosses this and breaks through those support levels, that would be the second leg down, and then this would be the third leg down. So it can get back to 375 in a heartbeat. We just briefly peaked up into sideways quiet up in this region, but it's starting to reject that already. Not atypical. That is sort of typical of these sideways markets. So this is the daily bars, and now we're looking back 10, 20, 30 days. Here's our 30-day low. 10-day low here, 10-day and 5-day high here. Here's our 5-day range. So you can see that this little quietude from Thanksgiving week has rolled over and started to fail. So again, if this breaks, look out below. 375 and then 360 are in play. And then this is our 150-day look back on daily bars. So we've got our support levels. This is tenuous. We want to see this break above, but if it doesn't, here's our critical state. Down she falls. Level 1 and 2, and then the PSAR breaks. It's back down to 375 in a heartbeat. So that's how vulnerable this could be. If 375 doesn't hold, then all this is for naught, and then we wonder if that's going to hold. So that's how quickly this critical state could get bad in a hurry. On the other hand, if this can hold here and then break out above the 30-day high, that's above this little peak, then we don't get any real resistance until about 415. And then if that breaks, then we don't get resistance till 425 and 430, and then all is right with the world. So we got out of this critical state right here, there's two very large moves winding up. So yeah, could it go sideways? Sure. That would be the least likely move in my view. That the volatility of the market is still on everybody's minds, and that we're likely to see a strong move in either direction, less likely to see that sideways. We'll take a quick look at the sectors today. There we are. Alrighty. So we've got the S&P here at minus 1.6. Diamonds and the Qs, 1.5. Russell was weakest at minus 2%. Emerging markets were the best. Stock index minus 0.5. Treasuries were up 0.28 to the good. And Tesla was the dividing line between winners and losers. Basically flat for the day, still below 200 and above 170. So this was actually a vote of confidence in Tesla in that it resisted all of the sell-off of tech and the broader market. So that's, I actually look at that as a positive sign in Tesla. There's people buying Tesla. Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of trader stuff. We're going to go right to the traders. All right, here's Dan on there was a lot of folks trading Tesla today for good reason. Here's that. We got to be mindful of this in Tesla. Right here was previous day's close, big gap down, sell off. That's a 1, 2, 3 possible entry with a $1.50 risk box. That first leg up is tradable. That gives you a COTA 2. That's a pretty good entry right there, and that's a great exit. I would have taken this one because you still have another COTA 2 because you have a low, a higher low, a higher low, and you have a PSAR flip, and why not? When that doesn't work, there's your PSAR flip. There's your breakdown. Here's the test. It couldn't even get through the PSAR. When that fails, man, that you got to smash that and then smash this. Still, 1.22. We'll take that all day. Here's a swing in what is this? U.S. Steel. So this was from last week. His entry on strength here on the breakout. The indicated exit was probably that PSAR flip. Still, you get out at a reasonable level. You've avoided the pain and suffering if that goes further down. But I'd be ready to get back in on this thing on the way up, because why not? Critical state. When it breaks out of those little postures, you get some of these kinds of moves. And that's what this is looking like. So you could see this, or you could see that. It's so liquid intraday that you could even start that as a turbo position and then keep it overnight with markets money. Here's Devon. This is nice work here. Here's a quick short and a -1 PSAR flip. Gets paid for 2.1, and then there's a second 2R battle drill for an extra 0.5, so that's a net 1.5, 1.6. That's good stuff. I thought Dan had one more. Oh. Yeah. I'm sorry, I already had that on there once. Sorry. Here's Constantine, just demonstrating why he specializes in the gold dollar spot 3-minute chart. PSAR flip, breakout, 6.5. I'd have been really tempted for a second position somewhere in here or in here, but still 6.5, and it's finding resistance at last week's high, so he takes 6.5 and makes bank. Ring the bell. So that was his morning session. That was his 6.5. Then that last week's high acts as resistance, and now he gets essentially a collapsing dragon, and then plays it the other way for 3.4. So that's 9.4, all trading within these two well-defined support and resistance levels. That whole space in here was basically good for 9R up and down. So know your support and resistance levels. That's really good work. Yeah, I think that's the same. That's the same shot, only zoomed in so you can see it a little better. All right, here's Constantine on Merck. Gap open, MMRB off the bottom, possible entry, possible entry, possible entry. This is still pretty good. That's an emerging dragon. He quickly wants to get paid. That looks like a quick scratch or fractional loss. Waits for the PSAR flip, quick loss, and gets out. This was the maybe a little quicker in here. Now, to be fair, this is span of control, and he was on Tesla, so that's just an opportunity cost of span of control. His Tesla trade was very good and sort of justifies that attention to detail and focus. He was just looking at 2. He gets that first quick move off the bottom with an MMRB off the bottom in. And now instead of waiting for the PSAR, he's already made bank on this amount, and he has a little bit of a cushion. I think you stick around too late here. I think when this one could not make a new high, I think you want to be out here because you've got the RL10 rollover, crosses the baby dragon. That's got to be a signal for you, or don't put it on there. And we would have saved a full R. Great Kata 2 reentry to get paid, and getting paid for 2.3. and netting 1.5 for the day. Nolan also playing Tesla. See how many different ways there were to play it today. And the reason I think you got to be prepared for those sharp sell-offs is because the reversal is so good. There's your 1, 2, 3 entry, and now you can play that whole move instead of 1, 2, 3 entries that basically nets you 0.5. This should have been probably 1, 2. That's the difference between 2.0 and 0.5 is getting that earlier entry. I like this short, to be honest, because if that VWAP breaks, it's down here and coming back to that level. So good job stopping and reversing quickly, and the 1.1 pays for the minus 0.6. And I like the re-entry, and I like the Kata 2 re-entry. So 1.5 for the day. If you're feeling nervous, then reduce your position size until it's automatic. You want to be disinterested. This one is Devon Energy. Trying to see what we did here. First one was a short and a scratch, a re-short, and then let it fail for 0.6. Stabilizes, waits for the PSAR now to get over the anxiety in here. Still gets paid nicely in here. So we came out on the positive side. Nervous energy is energy. It's not a negative thing. It's value neutral. Make it work for you. Satya with Tesla. Nice work today. 2.3. So that's a 1, 2, 3. That's just about a 1, 2, 3 entry, but on the fourth bar. I like that. And now you get paid, and then the re-entry gets paid. Yeah, this was a little bit late. This is the Kata 2 here, but that still is enough to get paid. I'm not sure. I think you just wanted to get paid. I think you were probably out of nervous energy by that time. But that's all right. There wasn't much left in here, but there certainly was. Even if you don't get this one, you got to get this one. I think there was one more. Yeah, one more from Nolan. NVIDIA. Oh boy, is this one will be sad. Yeah, you know what I'm saying here. There's the VWAP. There's the lower high. That's the break. There's your PSAR flip. Standard risk. Crush it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. So this one would have been about 2R. Would have offset all of that. The collapsing dragon and the crossing of the VWAP intraday. Huge in bearish or sideways conditions. Huge. All right. Let's go to dashboard number 1. We're back into bearish, normal. We just went from sideways quiet back into bearish normal because we had just peaked out. So don't neglect the power of that fail. And you see how quickly support erodes. The weakness, Intel, Alcoa. Tesla, even though it's a max pain, I like that one on the rebound. Today was a strong move in Tesla. The fact that it did not fail. Now notice Merck, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola. 4 drugs and a Coke. Dow Tactical, Merck, big positives today. Walmart, big positives today. Some weakness creeping into Apple and Intel. Just a couple auto framers. ETFs, just a tiny weakness here in clean energy, but that's been so bad for so long. That may be the most reliable short that there is right now. That thing is just weak and suffering. Brazil and Latin America and emerging markets as alternative to the U.S. That's a diversification play. Standard auto framers and squeezes. Looking at the snipers. A few more in the S&P. None in our tactical symbol set. Starting to see a little bit of volatility here. CTLT, big move today. There's our big movers, all better than 2 sigma. In an otherwise gloomy day, winners continue to win. That's what you need to know. Healthcare and staples. Otherwise, not much to choose from in the ETFs. Ooh, brutal. Walmart and Merck. All right, that's everything we got for today. We'll get this published and posted and be ready tomorrow.